Object snaps assist you in acquiring location points accurately when placing components, drafting lines, or sketching elements. As your cursor moves near an element in the drawing area, Revit presents you with an available object snap. For example, when I switch to the plumbing floor plan view and start the pipe tool, I can move the cursor near the end of an existing pipe and Revit displays an endpoint object snap. Let's take a closer look at how object snaps work. First, open the Options dialog by expanding the Application menu and clicking the Options button. Then, on the User Interface tab in the Tooltips area, change the Tooltip Assistance to High. This will ensure that as you begin to work with snaps, you fully understand the meaning of the Object Snap symbol. Click OK to close the Options dialog. I want to place a new pipe in this model. On the Systems ribbon, in the Plumbing and Piping panel, I'll click the Pipe tool. Notice that as I move the cursor near the middle of the east wall, Revit displays a magenta triangle glyph and a tooltip that says Midpoint. Additional information also appears in the status bar, including the word Midpoint and the name of the wall type. If you click when the glyph is visible to place the start of the pipe, Revit automatically snaps the start point to the midpoint of the existing wall. Then, I'll move the cursor down until it is near grid K. Now I see a glyph and a tooltip that tells me that the pipe is vertical and I'm about to use the nearest object snap to snap. When I'm at the grid, the tooltip tells me that I'm at an intersection. I'll click to specify the end of the pipe. If my cursor is on an object but not at an explicit object snap, the status bar will say Nearest to and the acquired object will be highlighted as well as indicated in the status bar. Notice that the nearest object snap glyph is more faint than the midpoint or intersection object snap. If you wish to jump to the nearest strong object snap, press and release the Tab key. You can continue to do this to toggle among many potential object snaps in a tight area, rather than zooming in on that area, which can save time. I'll continue this pipe segment by moving down until I snap to the endpoint of the wall. Then I'll click Modify to end the command. Be aware that the snaps are also available when dragging the endpoints of an element. For example, when I select the pipe, I can drag the end grip and snap to snaps such as the intersection, midpoint, and endpoint. I'll click in a blank spot to deselect the pipe. To better understand the snaps, let's open the Snaps dialog. On the Manage ribbon, in the Settings panel, click the Snaps button. Revit displays the Snaps dialog. In the lower portion of this dialog, you can see all of the available object snaps. Each has its own two-letter keyboard shortcut. There are also some other shortcuts, such as pressing the Tab key to cycle through snaps, and pressing the Shift key to force the element into a horizontal or vertical alignment. Also, by default, all of the possible object snaps are enabled. When you type one of the two-letter shortcuts, Revit uses that specific object snap as an override. In other words, it will only snap using that specific object snap for its next selection. For example, if I start the Pipe tool again and type SC, Revit will only snap to the center of an object. But once I've made that selection, all of the object snaps are once again active. Snap to remote objects is another type of behavior that enables you to create alignments to objects that are not at your cursor location, but may be defining a temporary reference plane. Notice that this setting can be toggled on and off using the checkbox or the keyboard shortcut SR. I'll close the dialog, return to the Systems ribbon, and place a new pipe. With Snap to Remote Objects enabled, notice the dashed line that appears when the cursor aligns with the end of the adjacent pipe. And in the status bar, I can see that Revit has found an extension of the geometry of the adjacent pipe. I'll click to specify one end of the pipe. Then I'll type SR to disable the Snap to Remote Objects. Now, when I move the cursor toward the other end where the extension of the adjacent pipe would normally be found, I can no longer automatically align the pipe. So as you can see, there are instances when having remote snapping enabled is useful. But when you don't want to snap to adjacent objects, you can toggle this feature off.